I've been getting this question a lot. How do you keep going when you just don't feel like it? And if I'm being honest, I don't. But I recognize that there's a really fine line between letting something or a circumstance that's outside of you kind of run the show and also honoring your needs, right? And when we have the shit hit the fan, we're kind of right on that line and we have to make a decision. Do I need to press pause and kind of chill out? But I also don't want to lose motivation. And it can feel like more stress added on top of what you're already dealing with. So I thought I would break down like exactly what I do when the shit hits the fan and I'm either in the middle of a launch or I've gained some momentum or I'm building a new habit, whatever it may be. And life is lifing. This topic is perfect timing because honestly, it was a little bit of a rough week in the motherhood department. I'm also at the end of a really big launch that I did in my business and I put my entire blood, sweat, tears into. And so it's one of those things where you're kind of in that weird gray area where you want to keep going from this momentum that you've been building, but you're also a little bit tired. You also want to celebrate. You want to rest. And then the thing is with my daughter, I've shared on here before, she has a nervous system disability. And so at the end of the day, the most important thing that I can do is stay regulated. And that's a lot easier said than done, especially when I'm feeling a little bit anxious or stressed. And then I stress myself out more being like, okay, Kaitlin, you have to stay regulated. So it was one of those weeks where I was a bit dysregulated. I was trying to get back into my body. She definitely felt that. And everything just kind of snowballed, if you will. And so I kind of pulled from my bag of tricks on, okay, this is not one of those weeks where we're going to max out, but that doesn't mean we're going to do nothing. So how do I just woosah for a minute here and be gentle with myself and give myself that perfect amount of progress, I guess is the word that's coming to mind, but also, just being compassionate as if, a best friend was talking to me. I'm not going to be like, well, girl, you just got to keep going, keep that hammer, and that's just not realistic and often does a lot of damage. I hope that, the things that I went through this week can be helpful because they've worked for me time and time again, because let's be honest, I'm pulling from this bag of tricks more often than I would like. Something I've recently gotten into the habit of that I find really helpful is what I call needle movers. And it's something I also teach my clients to do, and they share that it's also very helpful. What this is taking a little bit of time each Sunday and identifying the 1 to 3 things that I really need to get done that week. And it's not just a have to, it's more of a get to, I get to accomplish these 3 things. But why that's so helpful is for a week like I had this week where all of a sudden everything just felt important and everything felt overwhelming, I had already identified the things that I needed to keep my focus on. And so when the to-do list started piling up and when I was hearing, Mom, I need you, I was able to tend to those needs and also not get more overwhelmed that things weren't getting done. So I really recommend almost doing some pre-planning where you can think about your week in advance and identify okay, if absolutely everything goes to shit, nothing goes as planned, and I did these 3 things or this one thing, I would end the week feeling like it's going to be okay. So that's something that I have been doing for at least a year and a half, 2 years now, and I find it extremely helpful. Now, hopefully you can relate on this one, but I know when the shit's hitting the fan, I definitely want some rosé, maybe a little Aperol spritz. I don't know, lately I've kind of been an old-fashioned girly. Anyway, so it is so much easier to say yes to especially alcohol or whatever it is that you enjoy when you're kind of like, I just need a fucking break, right? And so, I tend to during these times like remind myself that is never going to end well for me, because alcohol especially actually is a depressant, right? We all know that. And I don't know, it's like why it sounds the best when we are just in the lows of lows. I know that it's like, okay, let's just escape for a minute, have a little bit of happy, be just in my zone. And then recognizing like this is totally not a good idea. So one of the things I really avoid when things feel overwhelming is having alcohol, even though it sounds really great. So this was one of those weeks where, I was like, okay, should we bust out the bottle of rosé? And the little inner voice in me was like, okay, we're not celebrating. This is not something that you're doing because you really want to. It's like you're trying to get out of feeling something. Which brings me to my next point is I tend to be a little bit of an escape artist. I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I really retreat. And I disengage from connecting with people unless I have to. And I know that might be surprising because I am definitely an extrovert. But if I'm being 100% honest, I don't like it when people see me as like needing help or feeling like weak. I have a lot of things that I'm working through in therapy, specifically around that, because I know that needing help is quite the opposite of being weak. But that's kind of like my inner dialogue is in the past I've said like, you know what, I'm just going to not reach out to friends. I am going to be a little bit more distant from my partner. And I also recognize just like wine doesn't help. Being disengaged doesn't help me either. So something I've been really trying to be aware of is when I'm in these these deep feelings, whether they're sadness or overwhelm or just feeling like the pit of despair, I have my people that I know are like my safe place. So I've got my best friends. I obviously have mentioned, my partner. I have my sister. I'm also in a coaching community where I get coached. And so when business feels overwhelming, because believe it or not, it feels overwhelming for me too, I have a place where I can go and just like vent, but also get support and recognize like I'm not alone in this. Isolation is one of the most damaging things we can do. And this lone wolf stuff that some of us tough girls like to do isn't necessarily going to be the thing that's going to save us. So I also recommend tapping into your network or just people that love you. There are two more things that I do when everything just feels really hard. Okay. Actually, if I'm thinking about it, there's probably three, but I'm going to for sure tap into the first two because I know that the last one might not be accessible to everyone. And I want to be fair about that. So the first thing is I make sure I move my body. Sometimes that's like a vigorous workout where I'm sweating and getting out that energy. And other times it's just a really slow walk. Lately, I've been enjoying my partner and I usually have a routine where we take out the dog. If I'm being honest, it's mostly my partner. But lately I've been like, let's go together. And that's been feeling really nice. And we're not out there doing a power walk. Our dog is a total sniffer and just likes to be chill. And so it feels nice to just move, be with someone, talk, be slow. And getting in that movement is really, really important because the overwhelm can get stuck and we need to get it out. And so, yeah, that's definitely something that I do. And then the second thing is self-coaching. This is one of the greatest skills that I feel like anyone can learn. And it's where you literally self-coach. You are sitting down, I recommend, with a journal, and being able to dump out everything that's in your brain. Because when we're not getting it out of our body, it's living in our body. And when it's in our body, we can't see it. So like some examples of what I might write down in my journal this week would be like, I'm losing the momentum on everything that I've built. It's really overwhelming and hard to be the mom of a kid with special needs. And I feel like I'm never going to get my business to the place where it needs to go. I'm never going to become the person that can sustain the level of business that I want, having this particular demand on me all the time. I'm never going to be able to afford a team that can help me and take the load off my back, that I can grow and develop my business the way I want to, right? Those are all genuine thoughts. And those are thoughts that definitely crossed my mind this week. Doesn't mean that they're true. In fact, they're far from true, but they are thoughts. And when they are in my body, they feel really, really real. And so getting that out and just writing it on paper helps me to then reflect, because now I'm looking at it. It's not here, it's here, right? And so I break those down and I start thinking about, okay, if a client was in front of me, or my sister or my friend was sitting right in front of me and sharing those thoughts, how would I use my skills as a coach to coach them, right? Because just telling somebody, feel better, it's going to be fine. You know, that's not true. Like, that doesn't work when we're feeling this level of overwhelm. So being able to identify, okay, what is a great way to reframe those thoughts, and how do we find truth to anchor to, rather than this like ambiguity and this fear that's taking over. I hope that you'll find a lot of these things helpful the next time you're having one of those weeks where everything just feels like a shit show, because there really is a fine line between completely throwing in the towel and then feeling like a failure, right? Because you're like, ugh, again, I had another one of those weeks where nothing happened, versus like, okay, I recognize this isn't going to be the best week. That's okay. It doesn't mean it has to completely be a wash either. There are some things within my control that I can get a grip on, and there's things that I'm just going to have to let go of this week, because if I don't, it's going to exhaust me, put me into anxiety, it's going to overwhelm me. And like, the thing is, we're our own bosses for a reason, right? Like, we get to pull the lever up and down. And I say that that's like one of the most biggest blessings we have as business owners. Being a business owner is really hard, especially if you've got other things outside of being a business owner that you're responsible for, which I'm willing to guess you do if you're listening to this podcast. So instead of throwing in the towel and letting outside circumstances be the runners of the show, I really want to empower you to have some of these things in your bag of tricks that you can pull out and know that it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. I needed to hear those words this week for sure. And we're on the other side of it, right? Things that go down always come back up, and we just need to learn how to ride the wave. So happy that you're here. I hope that you found this helpful. If so, please subscribe or share this episode with a friend. I hope that you all have a community of other business owners that you are building life and business with. It is one of the most vital resources that we have. And if you don't, I'd like to welcome you into the Beam Life community, because that's what we do here. I never like to pretend that things are just super easy and you're going to do this step and all of a sudden you're going to be here. If only, right? So anyway, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sharing this and being a part of this world. And I will see you back here next week.